This week's Parsha is Parshat Tavo, when you will arrive. It's about the Jewish people eventually arriving in the land of Israel, not with their great leader Moses. He was punished and denied a right that each of us have by just clicking a couple of links on a website going to Israel. He couldn't even die in the Promised Land, so that should lead us to appreciate Tavo, of actually arriving in the Holy Land. But when the Jewish people arrive, they are commanded to gather the people and listen to a collection of blessings that will come forth from Har Gerizim and curses from Har Eval. This Mount Gerizim is in Israel, and today there's a Jewish community built on the top called Har Bracha, the Mountain of Blessing. I have visited many times. It overlooks the village of Nablus, the city of Nablus, Shechem. Jews can only go into Shechem. It's pretty dangerous. With the IDF, they go in once a month, in the middle of the night, you got to kind of sneak in. It's done with the cooperation of the Palestinian security services, but that doesn't stop what happened when we were there recently. An Israeli soldier was shot. When we go in with these protective vehicles just to pray at Joseph's tomb, just to pray, the Jews need 400 or 500 soldiers to protect them. It's kind of sad. And I've been there twice. And Molotov cocktails and stones on the vehicles, but you still go to pray because you can't leave Joseph alone. He deserves to be part of his people, and he deserves to be visited by his descendants. But as all these blessings come from Har Bracha, from Mount Gerizim, the mountain of blessing, it kind of inspires me to share with my children every year when we read this Torah portion the need to be a blessing. What does it mean to be a blessing? I wrote a book called 10 Conversations You Need to Have with Your Children. And one of the conversations that I have actually had with my kids, because the book comprises real life conversations with which I have raised my kids, is be a blessing and never a burden. We know the difference, right? A burden is someone who comes to your home as a guest but doesn't help. And I've always told my kids, if you're ever a guest at someone's home, get up, serve, help clean up, don't just leave. A blessing is someone who, when they see a friend who's down, tries to lift them up. He doesn't just share his travails, doesn't just share his disappointments. He actually tries to be upbeat and positive so that he lifts his entire environment. A blessing is you're walking down the street and you see someone who needs $1, and it's not the dollar that they need, although that could sometimes make the difference between even life and death. It's the acknowledgement of their humanity, that you don't just walk by them. And a blessing is someone who bestows dignity on them in that moment. I've had this conversation with my kids repeatedly, that in every situation you can either be a blessing or a burden. Look at how much family friction there is today. People fighting, divorces, sibling rivalries. You can either increase that and speak badly about other family members and leave broken relationships, or you can try to be a blessing, heal them. If people come to you with lashon hara, saying something bad about a friend, you can either indulge in it, listen to it, and feel good that you're hearing something negative about someone else, or you can kind of rebuke them politely and refute them and say, actually, that guy is pretty darn nice. Every moment of every day, we have a choice to be a blessing or a burden. I have that choice right now in this video. I can get up in front of this camera and I can cast aspersions on other people and say, oh, let's talk about something negative and the terrible political process in America and whatever happened to our elections and our whole society is going to pot. And maybe sometimes I do that. There is a need to criticize at times, but by and large, you have to uplift, you have to inspire. You have to always be a blessing and not a burden. And that's what these two mountains are. They represent two polar opposites. Mount Gerizim, the mountain of blessing, the higher points of life from which we always seek to uplift others and raise them up. And then Har Eval, this depressing mountain, this mountain from which just vitriol and condemnation comes. We've seen those two poles, both empirically in the world, those who only have something bad to say, the terrorists, the people who condemn the West, they want to kill us, and then the angels of mercy, those who just want to make the world a better place. Be part of the forces of light always. Always be a blessing and never a burden.